In this demonstration, we are going to look at configuring and using the MailTips feature that we have here in Exchange 2013. And so let's start with, let's start here over in the shell. We're going to go get organization config. And I only want to see that stuff related to MailTips because there's going to be a lot that's a response to that command. So here we have the MailTips settings. You'd modify them using the set organization config commandlet. And so let's say I want to turn on the MailTips external recipients enabled, go $true, hit enter, and that's going to modify that option. Now it's turned on. Right? That was the only one that was turned off by default. So it will not notify you if you're emailing somebody outside the organization, but now it's going to. Large audience threshold 25 by default, mailbox source tips enabled. That's where you get your mailbox full, your out of office, those kinds of things. Group metrics is where you get your actual number of members. So it really is set to go by default with the exception of those external users. So those are the default tips. You can also configure custom tips for individual recipients. Okay, let me create a mailbox here. Support MBX. Actually, let's do this. We're going to create a shared mailbox because that's what that's going to end up being. Okay, so there's a mailbox, and then I want to go into the properties of it, and I'm going to have a MailTips section. Okay, so no longer do you have to use the shell to do this. We can do it here. So please allow 24 hours for a response. All right, something like that. That's one example. Let's go and set the auto reply for Patrick's email. All right, so we'll turn that on. That's just a couple of things. We could do the restrictions, but we won't worry about that. I'm going to connect over to my email. Actually, let's just use the Outlook client since we have it open. Okay, so we're going to create a new email here, and we're going to test out this mail tip. All right, so as I address a message to Patrick L., it'll figure it out eventually here who that is. It'll automatically check those names. If I want to speed that along, which I'd like to, so I'm going to go ahead and hit check names. It checks it, and then what we should see, there we go. Took a second, but we see the automatic reply for Patrick Lohner come up. And then the idea is, oh, he's out of the office, and so I go back. Okay, I don't want to communicate with him. Support MBX. Looks up the support mailbox, tells me please allow 24 hours for a response. If I had a user that had, or if I had a group that had more than 25 people in it, which I don't, then it would show me the number of users. If I try to send to somebody outside the organization, then I'm going to get a notification that this person is outside my organization. Okay. Again, if I'm restricted from sending to somebody, it's going to give me a big red bar across that, and so it tells me about situations that might cause an issue. Let me connect here to OWA just so that we can see how it looks in OWA. It's basically the same thing. It's a little bit of a different format. So let's see it in both. So Patrick L. at PL-Enterprises. I don't know why that wasn't filling in, but okay. And this should pop up eventually. There we go. I'm currently out of the office, and I can remove recipients. So a slightly different interface, but essentially the same thing. As I had said, these are not, it's not the end-all, be-all or anything, but MailTips can be helpful. You can set custom MailTips on groups and users. And one of the things you need to remember, though, is that everybody's going to see those mail tips. So you can't create a mail tip that only Joe sees when he sends to a particular recipient. It would be potentially kind of humorous if you could. I can see some practical jokes in the making, but that's not something that we can do. So any mail tip you put in there will be seen by everybody who's sending to a particular recipient, so long as they're using Outlook 2010, 13, or OWA.